Hi everyone, this is Abel. Welcome back to my channel. Today we have a ton of series of books, not only books but series, that really piqued my interest, so we're going to discuss about those. We have previews, reviews, reading updates. This is going to be fun. Let's get ready. But before we start, remember that if you enjoy science fiction and fantasy books, this is the perfect place for you. So if you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing, leave a like, share this video. Thank you. The Skystone Chronicles by Blake and Raven Penn. This is a high fantasy series, epic fantasy series. We have 3 books out. I'm not sure we were supposed to wait for more, but the books are called, I'll show you the covers, Dragon Thief, Dragon Guard and Dragon Hunter. They're pretty self-explanatory and they look really good. This is one of those series that catches my attention because the art on the cover art is so gorgeous, in both on a conceptual level and on the execution level. I like the fact that you have the illustration behind, that you're able to peek through this dragon shaped hole in the cover, and the blend of colors. The green is an underrated color for covers. We need more green covers because it's a great color. It is actually pretty tricky to use effectively on cover. I know why designers are so afraid to use green covers. You understand that, but this one, it's striking. Second one is orange, kind of reddish, and the third one is blue. So the story is about the main character, who's called Asher, who's a dragon rider, but he is also a thief. So he's down on his luck, maybe. So he tries to survive stealing, and then he gets offered a job that gives him the opportunity to change his status, to live a better life, but also, as far as I can tell, reading the synopsis, to have revenge. So there's not much more in the description of the books about this, but it says that if you like, it's a blend between Eragon and Avatar: The Last Airbender, with a sprinkle of the mechanics of Brandon Sanderson. So it really sounds appealing for me in a major way. So I hope I'll be able to read it really soon, because I really want to discuss this with all of you. Get ready for the first name, surname and book title butchering of today. This is Ludik or Ludik, I don't know, and the Runaway Mountain by, get ready again, by John Ilho. Please, John, if you're watching this video, feel free to correct me and to tell me exactly how to pronounce the whole things, okay? This book catched my eye. I had seen it, I think, a few weeks ago, but I have read a reviews on Instagram, and the bookstagrammer he was raving about how good the book was. So I shared that review on my DMs, and I got in contact with the author, with John, who was so kind to send me a review copy for the book. I'll do a proper unboxing describing the book in a reel, pretty short, or a short video on YouTube here, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And I'll show you the book in my next book haul, when I will show you the hardback, because it is chef kiss, absolutely amazing, gorgeously designed. But let's take a second to look at that cover, which is absolutely stunning. It is gorgeous. It basically sold the book for me. Not only the artwork is that good, it's so evocative with this mountain, this huge bird, and the young guy flying with the bird. The colors are amazing, they really pop. They have huge contrast, and the hardback, the trade paperback edition that I have, it is marvelous in the hand. But I will say, the fonts and all the lettering on the cover, they're really unique because, you know, when you have high fantasy stories, epic fantasy stories, you tend to go towards a specific kind of fonts and character on the cover. They're usually really elegant. They look like gold or silver or some kind of iron. They have these huge titles with many graces and many kind of decoration that gives you this feel of something really old and really epic. But this one, it has bold choices on the lettering side because of this specific font, which is kind of modern, almost contemporary, actually a little bit futuristic, and the fact that it is so big that it covers so much of the illustration without actually stealing emotional impact from the design, that's incredible. I'm a design snob because I have a designer background, of course. So when I see this kind of cover with this kind of courage and desire to innovate, I just have to clap my hands because this is amazing. But about the story, it is really striking. If you read the first sentences of the description on Amazon, it says, "Mountains will move, cities will fall, worlds will shatter." I am ready. I'm here for it. So the protagonist is Ludik, or Ludi, or Lud, and he cannot correct people when they mispronounce his name because he's deaf. And in the description on Amazon, there are a couple of sentences that let you understand that there are a lot of misconceptions about deafness, because we usually think that it is the completely absence of any sound, so that deaf people cannot actually hear anything, but actually there is a range, and many of them can actually catch a certain amount or specific kinds of sounds, and that leads to the description of the actual context of the beginning of the initial beginning of the story, because he says that one of the few sounds that he remembers is the one of a earth-shattering thunder of a runaway mountain, the one that we have in the title. So the idea of a moving mountain is so striking, it's so good, it is so interesting for me. And it says that it has cataclysmic consequences because that mountain destroys everything on its path. And he says that he lost everything, his village, his family, and they're all gone. And he is dead set on finding them to understand why that mountain run, and if necessary, he'll make sure that it never moves again. So, wow, this is incredible. This is incredible. This is why I'm here. For this kind of ideas, for this kind of narration, and for the boldness of including the discussion about the condition of a life of a protagonist so different that can actually help you understand something from our actual world without hand-fisting any kind of discussion. Well, let's see how it is actually properly used, this kind of particular condition for the I don't know if condition is the right way to think. This kind of life, okay? The different life that the protagonist has because he's deaf. I'm really curious. Why are mountains running away? Why are those destroying the world all around them? So yeah, you can tell I'm really excited about this. I can't wait to read it and to tell you more about it. By Blood, by Salt, by J.L. Odom. This is one of the finalist books for the SPFBO 10 competition, or Spiffbox, which is this competition aimed to shine a light on high quality indie fantasy books and self-published fantasy books. I had the honor to be one of the sub-judge assisting Philip Chase in selecting a finalist for this year's competition. I will tell you more about the finalists from our group, but this one I think it was sent to the finals from the booktube channel Captured in Words, if I'm not mistaken, and he gave a glowing review about this book. It is about a Zetla, which is a former captain. He's a soldier. He's a disgraced soldier, let's say, because it says that he is a pariah, a depth soldier. He's a commander with no rank. He's a soldier without citizenship, and he wears a sword that it is unlawful for him to either own or use. So it is in a really interesting position at the beginning of the book, and he's sent to catch some kind of animal or monster. The description is a little bit vague, but it is clear that this mission is really dangerous, and that when he actually finds that catch the monster, the animal, whatever it is not exactly what everyone was expecting, and in a way this ignites some kind of political intrigue, because there is mention of the king and the brother of the king. They both have different desires, and they aim to gain different things by catching this animal. Someone really don't want that animal or this monster to be catched. So I'm okay with not understanding more of this situation, because I don't want to be spoiled, okay? I don't want to be have too much information about the dynamics of what's happening there, but it is enough to catch my attention. And the way the whole setting, and by the cover, judging by the cover, this has a desert setting somehow, or a Middle Eastern vibe. It could be. And it's really catchy, really interesting for me, because I love those vibes and those aesthetics. And poor protagonist is not living his best life, but I really love his position, because characters that go through that kind of struggle, they usually make for a compelling narrative, because they have to regain a better position for themselves. They have to rebuild their life, and at the same time, most of the time in the best kind of story, they have to face the causes of the situation they live in. And I like this kind of narratives. They're really catching for me. They really speak to me on a deep level. So I'm really curious to see how this story goes for me. This is really promising. You should absolutely check it out. Then the Binding Tenets trilogy with the first two books, Bloodwoven and Bloodbound by G.J Terral. Yes. The story from the first book is about Lynn, which is described as a competent and dedicated soldier that gets framed for a murder. So they say he did that, but he is also in a very difficult position, because he's been ambushed, he's been beaten, he's on the brink of death, and then he gets saved by a woman that uses abilities that are deemed unlawful, or some kind of, in a way, sinful. People from his place, they really don't like people like her and what she did to save him. So there is an interesting conflict there, because of course he must try to understand who actually committed the killing, who did that, and why they framed him, of course. But he's actually, the fact that he survived because of the thing that she did to help him survive are unlawful, and they're really frowned upon. And I think there is a religious subtext on this, and he not only has to try and redeem himself and to show the world that he is innocent, of course, but at the same time he has to seek help from her, from this woman that uses these incredible abilities to help him. So the conflict is really interesting, and I want to understand why on the cover we have Lynn, this really competent And really, this good person with a child, with the baby, what's going on there? It is really wholesome, and it is really different from what you actually find on epic fantasy stories, which are usually focused on huge battles and huge landscapes, really dramatic. This is not that. This is actually really sweet, but this is not cozy fantasy. This is described like high fantasy, epic fantasy. The title has nothing cozy, absolutely nothing cozy about it, but the colors really pop. And if you see the book, the paperback, because the author was so kind to send me a review copy, I'm waiting for the second book too, so I'll do a proper unboxing, reel or short, and then I'll show you in the next book haul too. When you see them in your hand, they look amazing. The colors are really warm, and they're really catchy, really inviting. So yeah, I have big expectation for this one, because the idea is really familiar, the context at the beginning of the story is really familiar, but I can tell that the author has this desire to take it on a really personal journey. And the second one is really catchy too, because it is a little bit more, it's more classical compared to the first one, because we have, I suppose it's the same protagonist, it's Lynn broodingly walking through this lush landscape. I want to know what's going on. What happened? Why did they frame him for this murder? What's going on? Why does he have the baby? And what happened to the baby in book 2? Because it's not on the cover. Okay, let's see what's happened, and I'll absolutely let you know, hopefully pretty soon. The Tenacious Tale of Tanna the Tendersword. What an incredible title! What an incredible title! Kudos whoever decided to give this book this title, because it sounds so good and so quirky and funny and kind of epic. This is probably the only middle grade book we'll see in this channel ever. I have nothing against middle grade books. I'm just a little bit outside of that demographic. I have been out of that demographic for a couple of years now. I know you can't imagine me being older than 18, but alas, it is by this has been written by Dewey Conway and Bill Adams. This is one of the books that were this is the winner actually from my group of judge, Philip Chase's judging group for the SPFBO. And shout out to Beltube, which is one of the sub-judges that had this book in his batch of book that were assigned to him to judge. And this one, he was his pick. And I will link down below the video when Professor Philip Chase, decided to announce the winner from our group for the finalists selected from our group, and where each of our members from the group decided to show and to talk about the books that we had selected to go to as our favorite to go on finalists. My favorite was The Sunset Sovereign. You know, I've talked about that book many times, and we had other picks from the other judges. They all look really interesting. They are all worthy reads, but this one was really incredibly fascinating because it looks like it is really funny, really cozy, and it has a really powerful story and a good message for really young people. So Professor Chase decided that this was the best, that had the best chance to actually win the whole competition. So this is a really strong contender to be the winner for the whole competition this year. The protagonists of this stories are Gelderford Quilpen and Tanna the Tendersword. He says that Gelderford has dreams of writing epic tales of heroic deeds, just like his famous aunt, but unfortunately, he has been assigned to Tanna the Tendersword, an excruciatingly carefree would-be companion who can't seem to find a qualifying entry-level quest. So, he is a bard, we'll say, or a chronicler of some kind that has those big dreams to write epic tales, and he's really unlucky because Tanna the Tendersword, I think that Tendersword refers to the fact that she's just an apprentice, she's just trying to become a fighter, so she's really not in a position to be considered a huge warrior or some kind that's someone who want to tell story about. But their first assignment, the one that Gelderford is supposed to tell and recount, is about a peg-legged, sword-wielding rooster and a crying mushroom. What's going on there? Why does this sound so interesting? Well, I'll tell you why. Because Brian from Belltube and Philip from the Philip Chase's channel, when you listen to them speaking about this book, describing the story, describing the characters and the vibes and the underlying messages of this story and the way they're wielded between the story and the illustration. We have two authors because it is actually the book is heavily illustrated. They light up when people talk about this book. They smile and they're enthusiastic and they have this starry eyes. There must be something special about this little story, and I can't wait to give it a try for myself and to understand why it is so interesting and why two really differently young people like Brian and Philip are so enthusiastic about it, even though they're not in the right demographic. And I'm pretty sure I'll be that enthusiastic too, and I'll let you know as soon as I read it. Absolutely. The Red Kingdom series by Ryan Lanz. There's a whole series that sounds so incredibly epic and so huge and meaty and interesting for me. So we have 4 books out. The last one I think has been published recently, and a 5th book that should be published soon. The first one is called The Silver Crystal. This looks like those huge and chunky epic fantasy series that we all crave. I think that the first book is around 600 pages. It's a multi-POV story. The first one is a bounty hunter named Rael. Rael. I like how it sounds in Italian. Rael. I think it's Rael. He chases down corrupted, which are people that have supernatural abilities. They're considered too dangerous, so they have to be locked down, or possibly even worse, because they could change the status quo and they cannot be controlled. So he's one of those hunters, and he has personal grievances against them because one of those, they actually killed his father. So he's out for as a job, as an hunter, but there's kind of a personal vendetta there too. But so it happens that he gets ambushed and kidnapped by those same people and corrupted people that he's searching for. And of course, in this kind of situation, you kind of can understand where is going on, because usually when this kind of anti-heroes, they get in contact with the people they're actually chasing for, they kind of have to change their idea about the reality of that situation. It is really engrossing for me as a dynamic, as a personal dynamic. I think that the second character that we have in the description, which is Facipy, I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, I'm sorry. I think she's part of those rebels, of those corrupted, and she's running away, and she could be forced to stay in contact with one of those hunters. I think she will end being in contact with Rael, and it says that they all need answers. They're all searching for some kind of answer. So there must be something lying down, another level of truth under the appearances of this, of the dynamic of the politics and the socio-political situation of this world. And then we have Levas, He says that he keeps order, that he's been struggling his entire life to keep the whole world, the whole kingdom in check, and that the dynamics between hunters and corrupted, they kind of put the whole kingdom at risk to have peace, to ending peace and having peace crumbling down. He's really afraid about that. He's the leader of the army. He's trying to be honorable, but things are changing really fast. I like multi-POV epic fantasy stories. I like when personal conflicts are seamlessly interwoven with the world building and the huge and the bigger political scope. I like all the covers. They're absolutely gorgeous. They really give you this sense of epicness. And I have a review copy for the first book, so I'll hopefully give you a review pretty soon. I'm really pumped about it. You should be too. You should check it out, absolutely. And let's discuss about this book together. The Hunter by K. Aagard. Butchering surnames as a lifestyle, rocking as a butcher. I'm so bad at this. Anyway, look at the cover. Look at the cover. What's happening here? Why do they have those goggly eyes? What's going on? Why? Okay, this is a limited edition, okay? I don't know why the author decided to make fun of the cover art this way, but it is hilarious. It is a stroke of genius. I want a paperback of this book with those goggly eye, with this specific edition. I don't know how much would last, how many copies there are, but I want this one because it is amazing. I've seen this on X and I retweeted it, I reposted it because it is incredible. It is beautiful. We need more authors that have this kind of ability and this penchant for self-deprecation in this way, because it makes the books even more interesting. I don't know why. Look at it. Look at it. It's incredible. But the story is about Strider. It says he's content to die. Why? After 50 years, his revenge is complete and his purpose is fulfilled. So the protagonist is in a pretty grim position. Then someone steals his hunter's world, a teenage girl, and his wolf, one of those with the goggly eyes, decide that this is a good chance to give new purpose to the protagonist, to escort a girl to her village. But this is no ordinary job, because in escorting this girl they have to fight against other hunters, other mercenaries and other dark things going on in this world. There is dark plot going on. So it is really interesting because the artwork in and of itself, the usual one, is really eerie, very dark, very ominous, but actually really beautiful. But when the author decided to put the goggly eyes on that, it's a masterpiece. I don't know how anybody will be able to resist buying something like this, because it is incredible and I really want it, and I really want to read it and give you reviews, hopefully really soon. Reviews. I just finished Shards of Earth by Adrian Tchaikovky, and let me tell you, this is one of the best science fiction books that I've read during the last 20 years probably. This is really high in my personal favorite chart of the best science fiction books ever. This is really close to The Expanse, let me tell you. And The Expanse is a completed series with 9 books that I have loved, really loved, for the last 10 years, and I will keep loving for the rest of my life. You'll see there in the back, right there. Because I had expectation. I know that Tchaikovky is good, and he has this huge back catalogs of books, because he pumps out books like crazy. He's the Brandon Sanderson of science fiction, for how fast and how committed and how consistent he is. But I had kind of a difficult relationship with its books, because I really loved Children of Time. The first one was really good. The other two, they really didn't click for me. And so I expected this to be good, because I asked opinion to other reviewers that I trust, and they said that this was really closer to my taste, because it is much more focused on characters. The world building is really cool. There are huge action scenes and a really interesting plot, but there's much more on a focus on characters, something that we didn't have on Children of Time, which is a downer for me. Even if the book is amazing, that book is incredible, but this one, it really clicked for me not right away, because it has a strange structure. At least at the beginning, we have a pretty lengthy prologue that explains a few of the things happening that really reshape the future of humanity, that serves as a background for the world building. And then the story changes, it becomes completely different. But the fact that there is such of a focus on the crew of this spaceship made it much more enjoyable for me, because those characters are amazing. But let's backtrack a little bit. So the story is about a far distant future when humanity has colonized many planets, and it got in contact with many alien species. And it looks like at the beginning of the story they are in a difficult but also peaceful situation within the relationships with those other species. Then the real war happens. The architects arrive. They're those huge aliens, huge as planets, so incredibly enormous, and they have just one purpose. There it is questions through the book, but at the books, especially the one that I read, of course, people don't understand why. But these architects, they select only inhabited planets. They destroy those planets. They kill everyone that lives on those planets, and they turn the planet in some kind of work of art, like sculpture. They reshape entire planets, and they become those beautiful artifacts, dead artifacts. And this ignites a galaxy-wide war against those architects. And one of the protagonists is they call him an int, because he has telepathic abilities, and he can actually contact and speak in a way, not actually speak, but he can influence this huge, incredible mind inside that planet-sized alien. And he and the other ints are the only one capable to fight against those architects. When the actual story begins, the war against the architects has been won, and no one has seen the architects for 70 years, I think. And of course something happens, and they come back. They are the main villains of the story. And then you have the other members of the main crew of the story. So you had the guy that saved the humanity, the int, which is called Idris. And then you have Solace, which is a warrior that helped him, this beautiful woman that comes from this subspecies of humanity. They're all human women, but they're all women. They created this society through parthenogenesis. So they're perfectly engineers, woman warrior that protected Earth and then decided to go their separate ways to build their own society. And one of the really interesting aspects of this future is that it is a believable evolution what we have on a technological and socio-political way, because then we have a species of robots that they come from Earth, and then they built their society, and they go through a given that they don't have to relate, they're not forced to relate with people, that you don't have any more humanoid androids as we see in many science fiction story. They really look different. And then you have in the same crew with Idris and other members, you have human beings and other aliens. They really look aliens, they really behave in an alien way, and it's really difficult to understand at the beginning what's going on because of the way those cultures are integrated with humanity. But it is really fascinating because it is really rich. Tchaikovky gives you just enough information to understand what's going on, but it doesn't hold your hand in a really childish way. You have to collect a few dots, but it is never too hard, it is never too heavy to understand what is actually going on. And the relationship between Idris and Solace, one of these futuristic Amazons, and with the lawyer that they have on the ship, and with the one that the alien that manages the commercial deals for the which is actually a cargo ship, we can say. They're really incredible because those characters have specific traits, the way to speak, life views, world views, and galaxy views, we can say. And there's Ollie, which is an incredible character. She's this human being that had a lot of problems on her body. She didn't grow up as usual people, and so she inhabits a kind of a rig, a moving armor, a power armor, and she's foul-mouthed. She's always angry, but really smart because she drives drones all around. Every character in this crew is incredible, and the people they face are really interesting too. The alien species they deal with, they're really incredible. And those architects are so scary. There is a sliver, a drop of eldritch horrors when they have to deal with them, and then the technology that the Ents use to drive spaceship through unspace, they call it hyperspace. It is really interesting too. So there's a lot going on in this story, because the war against the architect is just one of the many things this crew has to deal with through the story. Is this lingering threat, this really menacing presence, but at the same time, every time they jump inside the unspace, there's something else going on under there. So it is really, really fascinating. But as I said, the main focus of the stories are the characters and how they deal with that underlying threat. And the action scenes, they're so bombastic, so cinematic, so powerful. I have never read action scenes so strong. And Tchaikovsky is able to put in those action scenes so effectively interwove inside those high octane, really powerful and really strong action scene, those one-liners that are really fun, describing action scenes that are really crude, really brutal, and really, really strong, and make you actually cackle a little bit and smiling as you read them. There is a scene when a hearing is held, a kind of a trial, because the crew of the main crew of the story, they did something, and then a group interfere with the hearing, and Tchaikovky says that someone was interfering with the hearing with extreme prejudice, with guns, rail guns, and fighting and doing a bloodshed. So he is really a master, and I think that the writing style here is even better than what he had in Children of Time. And if you look at the reviews from City of Last Chances by Adrian Tchaikovsky, which is a fantasy books, especially the one that is from the Library of Alexandria, you'll see why. This is one of the best contemporary SFF author that we have, and I'm so happy that this book clicked so good for me, because it means that I can confidently go and search for all of his production, all of his other books, and try to see if they all works with me. But I'm pretty confident that I will actually enjoy them too. So read this one, read Shards of Earth, because it is incredible. This is incredible. This is so cinematic and so well written and so satisfying, and I can't wait to read book 2, and you should absolutely check it out. And I also just recently finished Alien Incursion Blink Book 1 by Brandon Ellis and Max Wolfe. This was delightful, really fun, really fast-paced, and yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. This has a really simple concept. It is about parallel dimensions and worlds that are similar to ours on various degrees. And actually, many of them are completely different because of some pivotal moments in our past that changed. For example, we have worlds when the Roman Empire still exists and rules the whole world, and we have world that especially one world that is heavily influenced by another culture, and I don't want to say which one because I don't want to spoil the books. And the gist of it is that we have a group of people living under of a military branch of the government from our world, the one we live in right now, this version of reality that tries to keep in control all the other different dimensions. They operate in Area 51 and they use a device that it looks like a clock. They call it Blink, that comes from Atlantis, and they're really rare. No one can understand exactly how they work, but they cannot replicate the technology, and they use this device to be world hoppers between all those reality, trying to save specific people that they can actually enlist in this small army of world hoppers to try and preserve technologies and discoveries from those worlds, because there is an alien species that is going around destroying those realities. And many times our protagonists of the crew, the small group that we have in the story, they have a really limited amount of time to save specific members of that society or technologies from that societies before those aliens come, because if those spaceships appear in the skies in those reality, it means that they're going to destroy that world. They're actually going to destroy the entire solar systems, because they use the energy from the sun to ignite a cascade event and destroy the whole solar system. So it is really action-paced, really powerful, and really interesting. It has a strange structure. I didn't understand why at the beginning, because it sounds like the story restarted around the 30%, but then I read the description, and this is a bind-up of a prequel novella and the actual novel. So character gets reintroduced in the actual novel. It's a little bit jarring, but then you understand why. But reading the novella, it gives you much more context about the introduction of a few of the characters, which are really fine, really fun, especially a couple of them. The protagonist is a little bit flat. It's not that interesting and not that deep of a character, but it works for the kind of story that we have. he is fleshed out, he is understandable, you can definitely root for him, but he's not that charismatic, okay? Most of the characters that orbitate around him are kind of more interesting than him, but it's not a bad thing because he's an endearing character, okay? I wish he had some kind of quirks more, that he had more interesting conflicts or some specific traits to make him stand out a little bit. But the story is really enjoyable, it's really fast-paced, it's really cinematic. The action scenes are really good, they have sometimes really small scope, really detailed and really nail-biting, and sometimes they're really big, but big in a Michael Bay way big, okay? So it was really satisfying, and I can't wait to read book 2, and you should absolutely check it out. Reading updates. I am almost at 70% of Curse of the Mistwraith. By now you should be absolutely sick of hearing me gushing about this book, but this is one of the best fantasy series that I've ever read. Because of the way everything it's been handled, the language, the world building and the characters, and I'm loving it so much. Then I'm reading Night Owls by Stephen Gay, which is a science fiction story about a civilization on the moon and a young protagonist that is struggling to make meets end because he is really poor. The society there is really structured and regimentalized, so he is struggling to put food on the table and repay some debts, and he has adjacent interests. He throws those huge rave parties, and it's a subculture that I am not familiar with, but it is really interesting the way it is described, and it's really well written. The writing style is really solid, it flows beautifully. And then I'm rereading Stone and Sky by Z.S. Diamanti because I'm approaching the second book, so I wanted to be sure to have it fresh in my mind. Yeah, I'm really curious about the second books. I'm really pumped about it because the first one was one of my favorite from this year. And then, by the way, I'm reading a lot of things because when I'm stressed out, my only way to vent a little bit is reading books, but at the same time, when I'm really stressed out, I cannot focus on a single book, so I end up reading small bits and pieces from many books, and then at the end, as it always happens, one really grabs my attention and I finish that one and put the others aside, and then I come back. And I think it will happen with Curse of the Mistwraith because I really want to finish that one before the end of the year. And as I said, I'm also reading Heliotrope by Pickering, which is so good. So good. That book speaks to my soul because of the writing style and because of the protagonist, but I'll tell you more when I go a little bit further in the story. And I'm also reading An Exile of Water and Gold by Joshua Walker, which is an epic fantasy story that it is in this lush world with an incredible world building, with this nationwide tree that covers an entire nation, with strange cultures and an interesting political intrigue and kind of a murder mystery too. It's really amazing. And I'm reading The Council of Athyzia by D.H. Hoskins, and that has a really interesting concept because the story starts after the end of the usual epic fantasy story, when the big bad guy of this world has been defeated. And the core conflict here is that all the species that helped fight this big bad, the Osiomancer they call it, so dwarves, elves, humans and other species of this world, they converge in this council, in this world city called Athyzia, that was a center of culture in this world, because they're trying to decide how to move forward and how to work together to prevent other threats like that one. Because it is clearly stated at the beginning of the story that had they decided to work together, to collaborate faster, and if they had been able to put aside their personal inner conflict and conflict between the nation, they would have been able to prevent the ascendance of that big bad and to defeat it faster without losing so much people, without losing so much ground before they actually succeeded in defeat him. So they really want to establish this council to try and work together to have a better chance to foster a healthy future for all of those species. But it is not easy because every one of them has a personal, understandable agenda. Every one of them has grievances. There are conflicts, interpersonal and intercultural conflicts. They have to build trust to try and work together. In the point where I am, I still don't understand the end goal of the story. But it is interesting how world-building heavy the story is, how detailed the entire world is, and how the personal relationship between the head seats of all of those cultures are actually working, how they see the other cultures, and why it has been so difficult for them to work together. So yeah, the concept is interesting. The execution is always also really interesting, and I'm really curious to see when the meaty part of the story begins. Let's see, and I will tell you pretty soon. That's all I've got for you today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying until the end of the video. And remember that if you enjoy science fiction and fantasy books, this is the perfect place for you. So if you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing, leave a like, share this video. But if you want to see more videos right here, right now, you have more videos right here, right now. Thank you again. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.